Hey everyone, it's Elliott, and welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk about those times when I've been soloing, and I'm on this wonderful run, and then I hesitate. I know I'm not the only one to experience them, and I know they're infinitely frustrating. There are plenty of reasons why that happens, and today I wanted to share one way to practice scales that really help me minimize that occurrence. It's that feeling of being on a nice run, in a familiar area, familiar pattern, and then going out of it and going, uh-oh. So all of a sudden it sounds like just a little hesitation, a little insecure sound. These moments don't even last very long, but I know to a lot of people they end up being kind of a headache where you listen back and you go, ah, that moment. An obvious solution would be just stay in that pattern you're comfortable in, and fair enough, that'll work for a lot of people, but for someone like myself who doesn't like feeling boxed in, I realize I kind of need to know this scale in every which way from every different angle all over the fretboard to feel the most free. Also, if you like what you see here or get something from today's lesson, please comment, like, or subscribe. It really helps me out and helps the channel. I really appreciate it. Also, feel free to check out my Patreon. Link is in the description, where I offer backing tracks, lesson supplements, and more. Now, what does learning the scale all over the neck mean, really? It doesn't really mean necessarily just going over like 5 pentatonic patterns, staying within each box. It means learning how to connect them and learning to just make them one humongous pentatonic box. Sometimes when starting to play, I would think of like a C minor over here as something wildly different than this C minor right here. Even though they're literally the same notes in the same order of notes and in the same octave. It makes sense because sometimes like this might seem lower visually, or this might seem lower because it's on a lower string. But being really aware of what octave we're playing in and how we're going to get there is huge for this. Trying to find as many different ways to get from this C to this C, it would be a long process, but it'll also illuminate so many different parts of the fretboard that we feel kind of uncomfortable in. So say we're doing C minor pentatonic from right here. I could do, right, this kind of like 3/6. That's a possibility, but I could also go, first fret on the D string. Kind of a different mechanic there. You can see that like I might not want to use my pinky, especially if I'm soloing and I'm soloing kind of with this kind of hand position. I might not want to go whoop and to reach for that minor third there. I might want to reach for it right here. Versus, right? I might miss that note. Those little things, can make a much smoother solo in those little moments that maybe only we recognize. Also, I have the opportunity to use an open string here. Pretty different sound, right? Versus, it leads immediately to that. There you'd have to be like a little careful to make sure that you don't do that too much. But to get from this C to this high C using that open string, I might end up having to play a lot of notes on one string, which leads to a very different sound again. That all of a sudden sounds pretty interesting. That's not necessarily something I would have come up with or been able to even play if I was just staying in the regular minor pentatonic box. So then also there'd be this way. Which might be useful for someone like myself who likes to keep a closed hand most of the time. There's no huge stretches in this, yet I can cover a lot of ground real quickly. Something like this is not really my thing, but if I can go and just slide, instead of making that stretch, that's perfect. I still get a similar smooth sound without having to possibly get carpal tunnel syndrome. Up to the 8th fret, where the more common minor pentatonic pattern is, sometimes we can play in that area and maybe a little bit above it, right? But from below it is a little bit of kind of like a, non-illuminated area. So instead of going from this C to this C with the regular minor pentatonic pattern that you probably already feel comfortable with, let's use that one beneath it. And get used to kind of the hand motions and the different shapes your hand has to make that happen. At this point, I'd be able to play C minor pentatonic like this. Right? That's a lot of different ways, and it leads to a lot of different licks. So for a more standard blues lick, I might want to live in that minor pentatonic box. But for something like faux slide, I might want as many notes as I can on the same string. Has a different sound, and obviously it gives me a different approach, and I can't possibly play the same licks the same way. Of course, if you feel more comfortable with large stretches, that is also a different way to kind of expand the vocabulary available for each pattern. So instead of just having this kind of thing in this area, I can also do a more stretchy thing and get this kind of vibe. Very, very different sound when combined together. Kind of something kind of like... It's a fun sounding idea, and if you happen to be hearing something like, I want some larger intervals, something more fusion-y sounding, that would be a much easier way to go about it than try to do that while sitting in kind of like a regular blues hand position in a blues pattern. So if you think this idea could help you out as well, just a heads up, I'm going to put some scale diagrams as well as tabs of major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, Ionian, and Aeolian up on my Patreon. Again, this certainly helped me, and I hope it helps you, all the different ways to get from A to B or C to C. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.